What is good, Rush Rivals? This is Lord Tenrai back at it again with another Rush Duel Links Best Decks video. This time highlighting my Bubble Era Aqua Aggro deck, which got me King of Games of February 2024. This is a very interesting deck. Basically, it utilizes a lot of the basic concepts of a standard aggro deck, but the skill Disco Fever really allows you to lay on the damage as quick and painful as possible, allowing simple vanilla monsters like Lamoon and Kanan to really just board wipe your opponent again and again, trying to lay damage on as quickly and effectively as possible to basically gain some sort of advantage, either through board control or through life point control, thanks to Dianketo allowing you to gain a K by discarding a card, and to essentially just outlast the opponent in a battle of wills, especially because you're running so many vanilla aquas that you're able to facilitate use of the skill. And I mean, I haven't even gotten onto the new tech cards yet, but before we get started, if you do like the content, please subscribe below. I will be trying to do more content coming up, especially as we are now on the eve of Maximum Summons, which I am very, very excited for. And if you'd like to see me live on Twitch, please search twitch.tv/Lord Tenrai in your address bar, or search for it on Twitch. I try and stream as much as possible. Unfortunately, I don't have a schedule, but if you follow me on that platform, you'll see me go live at any moment, and you can join in on the festivities and fun. And speaking of which, let's go straight into the deck profile. So this deck really is just a slightly, just my opinion, very slightly worse version of aggro. However, because of the skill and because of how many normals we're able to summon, this deck doesn't really brick per se. I mean, we do play 6 tributes, 3 of those being 2 tributes and the other 3 being 1 tribute monsters. However, the main issue you might find going into matches is that you are not drawing the right combination of Aqua level 4s and your tributes. It's very important that obviously you get access to both, but in reality, as long as you're able to draw Kanan and Lamoon, you should be able to start clearing boards thanks to the ridiculous skill, which is Disco Fever. Disco Fever reads that if you have at least 15 light attribute aqua monsters, and that the only level 7 or higher effect monsters are aqua type, so essentially we are just running Dianketo, you know, we can basically buff the attack of aqua type monsters, 700 attack as a boost, but the total levels that we can increase in terms of the monsters that are available on the field have to add up to 10. So for particular example, if I have a board of Dianketo, Fashion of Faith, and Bubbly Elf, I will only be able to boost Dianketo and Bubbly Elf. I cannot boost all 3. I mean, alternatively, you can also just boot Fashion of Faith and Bubbly Elf, but as long as your levels add up or are less than 10, you're going to be okay for the boost. However, because of the nature of the deck, because we're boosting our monsters up as much as possible, I mean, before we even continue, I think stat lines are pretty important, right? So Kanan can go up to 21, which is very, very impressive. Lamoon goes up to 19, and Bubbly Elf goes up to 15. So even a Bubbly Elf is going to get over any normal set in the game. And a Kanan is going to be able to beat over or crash into many 1 tributes, right? I believe the only 1 tribute she can crash into is Fire Guardian, and I believe the rest are lower than 21. But obviously, she's in risk of getting barriered. So obviously, keep that in mind. But you're already starting to understand the game plan, right? Get the girls big and get them to start having a good time wailing on the opponent's face. Now, what's really important, I think, in this particular deck list is some of the text that I'm going to go through with you. Because naturally, like, stuff like Seahorse Carrier, you guys know what Seahorse Carrier is about. You know what the smoke's about. When you see the horse dropped on the field, you know what time it is, right? So I'm not even going to discuss what the horse is going to do, right? Let's talk about the new things that were added to this deck and the text that are kind of added to the deck to help facilitate the strategy of being, you know, hyper aggro, right? So first of all, the new cards, right? Fashion of Faith is ridiculous. It has added so much versatility to the deck. It is frankly a godsend for this deck, quite frankly, right? What this card does is that if you have basically tributed for Dying Keto for the turn, and you then normal summon her, or you have her on the field before the tribute summon of Dying Keto, you can buff Dying Keto and draw a card, right? So this goes up to 20. This goes up to 29 on the summon or the activation of the effect of Fashion of Faith. This is huge because if you're fighting against, for example, a Dragius, or you're fighting against an Arise Dragon, a Dragius is going to be Force Crash, and an Arise, you're going to be over that. And we haven't even discussed using the skill yet, which is very, very important. The only thing that this would naturally struggle against, in terms of the boosted Dying Keto off the Fashion of Faith effect, is Barrel Dragon, right? Barrel Dragon is still a huge risk swinging into it with an opponent's face down, but we're going to talk about how we can get rid of face downs in just a moment. But this is like incredibly important. Obviously, no effect in Rush Duel is once per turn. So if you have 2 Fashion of Faith, you're drawing 2 cards, and this card, Dying Keto, is just getting huge. It's just going to get absolutely massive, right? What you would normally do is, you know, let's say for example, you normal summon Dying Keto after you've retained your board. Let's say like you had 2 monsters the previous turn, you flop down like Dying Keto for your turn. You can then normal summon Fashion of Faith and normal summon a Lamoon, for example. Buff the Dying Keto with the Fashion of Faith, right? Then you tribute over the last 2 cards that you've put down. So you tribute over the Fashion of Faith and the Moon for the second Dying Keto, yeah? And then you go another Fashion of Faith if you have that in your hands to then do another buff. So the initial Dying Keto is getting buffed by 800 and the second Dying Keto is getting buffed by 400. And that allows you to then really start augmenting your levels and basically playing around the board state, right? And speaking of playing around the board state, hydration is so good. It's so good. I mean, the fact that it requires 2 face-up Aqua monsters is not a big deal because you are going to, like, if you don't draw 2 Aqua monsters in your turn, something has disastrously gone wrong with your ratios, right? So you're gonna pop a card and you're gonna gain life points, and this deck does really well when you have life points to spare, right? I'm playing this at 2. If you can grind and get free, please grind and get free. This card is a must at 3. And if I'm playing this card at 3, chances are I would probably drop the Kana to 2 and play this at 3. And you know, I'll talk about the Kana later on. But yeah, I would immediately drop a Kana and play Hydration at 3. Because this card is just so important. It's, you know, it's your recovery, it's your board, it's your back row breaker, you know, it's your lead setter, it's the duel pace. It's setting the duel pace, right? It's slowly setting it in your favor. I know 500 doesn't seem a lot, but it really, everything helps. If you have the lead and you're using Dying Keto and you're using Hydration for your turn, you're adding 1500 life points. That is a substantial amount. Anyway, moving on to the older techs, as it were. We are playing Torna. Obviously, the skill that I mentioned earlier allows for Torna to be used. This card is just so good for the deck. Basically, send 1 card from hand to the graveyard, and ideally that's probably going to be an Aqua Vanilla level 4, and then you change the battle position. So you are then punishing the opponents for setting monsters in set position, face down defense position, right? And that is so important because it really allows you to harness to optimize the aggressive nature of this deck. You know, you flip it face up, you normal summon your Kana, you normal summon your Lamoons or your Fashioner face, and you just start swinging. Kana's going to throw in for 21, you know, and the rest, you know, the other values I told you earlier. And then you just slowly build on that lead. And if you have Diane Keto, it's that lead is going to be even sweeter, right? Summon Skull. So Summon Skull, you know, you could also replace this with the 2 Tribute Light Machine. I forget what its name, but it's a part of the Ace Breaker structure deck. I think that this is much better because you are putting a 2500 body down, right? And as I'm sure you guys have noticed with Dark Sword Magician, having a 25 body down on the field where your opponent, you know, if they're playing aggro and all they have is a Dragius, they can't threaten anything, right? What are they going to do? Crash into your Summon Skull? I don't think so, mate. They're not gonna do that. So, you know, you're essentially building the wall with this card. And at the same time, you are also bringing that pressure of, yeah, I've got 2500 beta. I'm not afraid to use it, yeah? So Summon Skull, very, very important. Moving on to spells and traps. So like I said, Hydration, absolutely pivotal, absolutely key. Play this at 3. You know, you won't be sorry about that. Shield and Sword, which is the new card that we got in the, last month. Man, it's been a long time since I've done a video. You know, this card is so important when you're trying to sack the opponent, and this deck does really well at sacking the opponent. You know, with the aggressive nature of this deck, it would be silly not to utilize this card, right? So you're playing Shield and Sword. If you see a deck, for example, Dragons that mostly have 0 defense, you're gonna summon even the most tiny of boards like a Kana and 2 Lamoons. You are looking at what, 21, 19, so that's 4,000, 59, which is nearly lethal, yeah? So, you know, Shield and Sword, absolutely pivotal to this deck. You'll see it going forward, 100%. TTT, Triple Threat Thunder. This card is insane. I was talking about this card the other day, like, well, I say the other day, about a month or so ago, and I was saying, I really think that they should bring out more copies of this card. Well, thank God they have not, because this card sacks like no one's business. Very, very, very good card. Going into maximum summons, you are hoping that you're going to draw this card so that you can break the maximum summons board. So yeah, it is just that good, right? The requirements are a little bit steep, you know, 3 face-up Aqua monsters, but really not that hard to achieve. Trust me, like, if you can drop this on the field, drop it on the field, yeah? And when we go into maximum summons, if you see Harpies or whatever, drop this on the field ASAP, right? Then obviously we're just rounding off with Widespread Ruin, best trap in the game, not going to talk about anymore. And then obviously Barrier as well. This allows us to shuffle in key cards in our deck, or key monsters I should say. So mostly I would say you're either going to shuffle in your Seahorse Carrier or your Fashioner Faith. The only other thing I can think of that you might shuffle in is either your Torna, if it's late game and you're trying to get the last bit of damage done, then you could guarantee it by, you know, obviously drawing a Torna late game. Or alternatively, if you need a Dying Ketos for mid game, let's say you've used up all your Dying Ketos early and you're looking to get another big booty lady on the field, then yeah, you can throw a Dying Keto on the board as well. Shuffle it back in so that you can put it in the board. Finally, I'll quickly talk about the weaknesses. This deck's biggest weakness is one of the cards that it's actually utilizing. Shield and Sword. If your opponent drops a Shield and Sword on this deck, you are fucked. Like, everything that you see here has 0 defense. Everything. Yeah? I mean, Diane Keto not doing much better. She's got 1,000, so you're taking a chunk there. Same with Torna, and then I think Summon Skull's the best with 12. I mean, unless you count the Kana, of course, which is why we have it in the lineup. But, you know, it's not... Basically, this deck does not function well under, you know, SNS. So, you know, be very, very careful about that. And then finally, because of the nature of the deck that, you know, we are keeping, you know, we are trying to utilize low-level monsters in conjunction with the skill to try and, you know, clear boards. Problem cards such as Dragius will have a lovely time dismantling this deck. Obviously, a barrier is just not going to cut it when a Kanan is just staring down the face of a Dragius. You know, and frankly, if you have a Dying Keto on board and they bring out an Arise Dragon or a Seven Roads Magician or a boosted, you know, Seven Roads Witch, anything like that, you know, you're probably gonna get beaten by it. I think if they have Seven Roads Witch, you force the crash. Don't quote me on that because I've never really, you know. Usually when SRW has been put on the field, they usually summon the SRM, and then the SRM does the swinging, and, you know, if they've got enough stats in the graveyard, typically around 3k to 33, then your barrier is just not doing anything. But the barrier is just there to help reduce damage, not to really clear certain problems. And then obviously it's to reduce damage so you stay in the game, and also so that you can obviously shuffle in key targets like the ones I mentioned. The reason why, you know, obviously you want to stay in the game is the sacky nature of the deck, right? We've seen aggros do it. You know, I think we're going to see more spellcasters do it, but this deck can sack the hell out of you if you're drawing cards like Shield and Sword or Triple Threat Thunder in conjunction with your combo pieces, your Seahorse Carriers, your Fashion of Faiths, your Tauners, and obviously your Dying Keto. Sorry, combo pieces and your boss monsters, your signature monsters. So yeah, with that being said, that's the deck portion of the deck over. In terms of like tech cards I would add, I mean, you could mess around with the ratios of, obviously hydration needs to be a 3 of, you could put in more barrier, however, you do want access to a lot of normal summonable monsters. I do think the Kana is a bit of a waste, to be honest with you. I would probably drop her down to 1 potentially, so that you can add a 3rd barrier and a 3rd hydration. But ultimately, like, it just depends on how often you want to see normal summons. I mean, I think we play, in this version of the deck, we play 15 normal summons, 17, sorry, which is a ton. So, yeah, if you go down to 16, that's not too bad. 15 gets a bit dubious, but obviously, like, it depends what you want. I mean, 16 is absolutely fine, I think, because, you know, you don't need the Kana, but you need the hydration, right? And if you don't want to play barriers, that's absolutely fine. You could take out a barrier and add in a Kana if you really want to. Like I said, the barrier is just to help keep you in the game and to shuffle in your important targets. With that being said, we're going to go into the match review portion of the video. Thank you very much. Let's get right into it. And we're back, Rush Rivals. So as you can see, I got King of Games rank for this month. And I'm going to show you the matches that allowed me to get the 5 in a row necessary to achieve King of Games. With MJW Marcus being the last match, I'll show that last. We'll start off with Vladdy, and basically I'll just go through like thoughts of the matches and feelings of the deck, especially going forward into the maximum summoning mechanic. So anyway, so we go first against Vladdy. You know, we're able to set up a pretty decent board here. We end up setting 2 and then tribute summoning the 1 for Summon Skull. Because we have a barrier, that does protect us from other 2500 crashes and stuff like that. Vladdy obviously bricked super hard because he just sets 2 and pass. I'm sure you guys can see where this is going from here. So anyway, you know, we summon Dying Keto, we get Fashion of Faith going, we're going to use the hydration that we set previously, we hit the barrier. Guess what though, the last card that is set is a fucking widespread, so we lose the coin flip, but we still do a significant amount of damage here. So you go Valkyria, normal summon into SRW. He ditches the DSM, the Dark Sword Magician, and he's gonna start swinging ahead. And yeah, we basically take out the SRW first because we know we can get over seven Rose Magician with Torna, so this is basically a done deal now. So yeah, so like thoughts and feelings on the deck going forward, right? I think this deck it doesn't have an inherent way to deal with maximum summoning, right? Like if you have a Harpies on the field, like a Harpy Lady Sisters on the field, yeah, that's like what, 3,500. How on earth are you going to get around that, right? I don't think that there is anything you can do with Aqua other than hard drawing Triple Threat Thunder, and because there's only one in the game at the moment, I think they are going to really struggle going into the next meta. I don't know if I will say they will become completely irrelevant, but I think they're really going to struggle. Anyway, we get a really good draw here, right? We can basically set all 3 vanillas and then set the widespread. We keep the Fashion of Faith in case we are able to facilitate 2 tributes with her later, with Dying Keto. Anyway, Valkyrie swings into us, and then he's going to change the, obviously use Sorcerer of Sanctity to then swing in. We draw the Dying Keto, which means that we are going to be able to use Fashion of Faith after the summoning animation. We're going to be able to draw 1 and buff it to 29, and we get another Fashion of Faith, so we get to activate her again, bringing her to 33, which is humongous. And then we're going to tribute for Torna as well. Although really, I think we should have probably not done that, but like I'm pretty sure we might have had lethal if we just buffed the 2 Fashion of Faiths and Fashion of Faiths instead of going for the Torna play. But you know, it is what it is. He's gonna swing into Torna here and set 2 back row. And he's obviously worried about the barrier, so he doesn't swing with the juggler. However, we're going to Hydration, take out the widespread. That's fantastic for us. Activate Shield and Sword, and then we're just going to start swinging. Yeah, and basically we just play around barrier. Excellent stuff. Yeah, so as you saw, like Juggler was at 500, so we swung with Dying Keto because that negates the barrier. And then we swung with Kanan to go over the Dark Sword Magician because that was 15, I believe. And that, obviously beat over the barrier, and then we were able to attack for lethal. So that went well. Right, we're going to go into B-Tor Parata next. I think there is a bit of a misplay in this match though, which is unfortunate on my end because I think I could have finished the duel a lot sooner. But we still get the win, so it's not too bad. So, uses Curtain really early here to get 7 rows on the Witch. 7 rows of Witch on the field. And then they're going to discard and summon for Dark Sword Magician to start building that wall. So we get the Torna, thankfully. And then we just start, summoning the big Aquas. We use Torna's effect to set the DSM into defense position. And now we're finally able to start swinging. Now he opens up a barrier here so that, we can't deal direct damage. That's not a huge deal to us because we're still going to be able to clear his board. And it's a matter of him being able to recover from this board. He sets 2. Gets his own Torna out, which is really good. And he's going to take out the Torna that's currently on the field. This gives us 2 tributes to work off of here, and we drew the Dying Keto, which is fantastic. We're going to normal summon the Dying Keto, keeping the Kanan on the field, and then we're going to keep the Torna in the hand for later in case we get a problem monster, or we need to start opening up some set monsters. Yeah, so we attack with Kanan first in case the widespread is there, and we are able to force them to use the widespread early. So we're going to go Thunder, And they're going to tribute summon for Dark Sword Magician. And we just accept 1100 here. We have Tauna, so we know we have the out to DSM. It's just, you know, how many cards do we need to use. Thankfully, though, we draw TTT. So we're going to be able to reduce him all the way down to 0. And we're just going to start having fun with him. Now, basically... Actually, is it here? No, it's not here. Yeah, so it is here. So you see here... actually, does it... No, it wouldn't have changed anything because my defense position for the Kanan is still 0. So yeah, I don't think I actually misplayed here. I just don't think there was anything I could have done. So yeah, we end up laying thick damage on them. They get another Magic's Curtain. They're going to get an SRM on the field. And then we use the barrier just to be able to shuffle in the carrier so that we can try and facilitate 2 tributes with 1 card. We do not draw into it, however, but we do have the Shield and Sword that we had set from earlier. And basically we're going to go straight into Dying Keto, use Fashion the Faith. And then we're just going to buff the we're going to buff the Dying Keto, I believe, here. Oh no, we're just going to buff the Kanan. And then we're just going to swing with this. I think this was the misplay, yeah. So I should have swung with Dying Keto. And instead they're now on 100 life points and they have a chance to come back. So they get Dark Sword Magician on the field. Mystic Dealer starts dealing. Get another Dark Sword Magician and they're going to start clearing board. Yeah, if I swung with Dying Keto on that previous turn, I would have won. But it doesn't matter because we're going to crash with Duck Summon Skull here. We got the Seahorse Carrier, so we're going to be able to grab the Kanan. That way we can get over the set card. We set the rest of the cards in the back row. And then we just start swinging and having fun. So thankfully, it ends well. But yeah, just be careful of your attack declaration. I think I was trying to play around a Princess Music Recital. Sorry, a Music Princess Recital. But typically, you know, I don't know if magicians are actually playing that trap that much. But yeah, unfortunately, I played into the wrong trap there. And it ended up costing me an extra turn. Potentially, it could have came back from that, which would have been devastating. So far the hand's looking pretty good. If we get one more normal monster, then obviously we can just start summoning and start swinging, and we do. And then we're able to, you know, completely empty our hand, and we can just start swinging over the top of everything else. I think this guy's playing an explosive drive deck, which, quite frankly, you know, it's not much to brag about. This deck kind of just wipes the floor with them. But, you know, they draw double Ansler, and they have the skill, and they start, you know, swinging into us here. Thankfully, though, they've got no back row, so we don't have to be too worried. Unfortunately, though, we don't draw well, so we just kind of have to pass at this point. They're going to start dealing, and they're just going to start taking care of our set monsters. However, they made the wrong attack order declaration, and they guessed poorly, because the Kanan is still on the field. We're going to go double Kanan, and then we're going to activate TTT. And then we're just going to start swinging into them. And we're not too worried. Oh, wow, okay. Even with the set. I think what happened there was because we obviously swung initially and we didn't see a response. Like, there was no delay. So there was no response that they could have gave to us. So we knew that the last back row that was available was not a barrier. So we just swung 2100 over the Ansler, which... Under normal circumstances, if we were playing in real life, I wouldn't have done that because there was no guarantee to seeing if that was a barrier or not. But thankfully, because it's Duel Links, we're able to figure that out. Anyway, he shields and swords us, and we are sweating at this point. Especially now that he's going to drop an SRM on the field. However, he's only got 27 because of the lack of attributes. We're going to bust out the widespread, and he's going to swing 15 into us, gaining the lead. We now get the Summon Skull, which is so good for us. We're going to go Lamoon, the Party Princess, buffing up both Kanan and Lamoon. And we're just going to start swinging. And we get the W. I think those last two sets were probably 7 Roads Art Explosion, which, yeah, this is the problem with the deck. You can just, like, flat out draw useless cards with that, with Explosion Drive. Anyway, the last match versus MJW Marcus, I believe. This guy is playing Magician Shuffle, which I think is like one of the best decks right now. Although I would probably say that Aqua is better than it. So, you know, going into it pretty confidently at this point. You know, as soon as I see the Magician Shuffle skill, pretty comfortable. I set 3 in the back row, and then he starts setting his 3 in the back row. Now, we still haven't drawn Hydration, unfortunately, but we are going to summon Dying Keto, and we're going to summon Fashion of Faith alongside it. Oh no, we don't do that. Interesting. We keep the Fashion of Faith till later, I guess. I guess, to be fair, like, you know, we're not in a massive rush to gain the attack buff, so I think that's probably why I kept the Fashion of Faith. Anyway, he brings out the Magician Shuffle skill, and I feel relatively comfortable. Like, you know, I know that DMG is going to be, you know, a bit of pressure on you know, on their end, but I think that we can also still come back and control the duel well. He only has 1 face-up card, and it's the DMG, so we're able to widespread that. And then we're just going to start clearing board. Because we couldn't use the skill, we couldn't use the other monsters first. So yeah, the skill won't activate if you keep your vanilla Aquas on the field. It has to be when you normal summon your Aqua, your vanilla Aqua monsters, you get the attack boost. So we draw for turn, we finally get the hydration, and we're just able to start swinging a bit more comfortably again. However, the wrong order, and then we swing into 2 Karnas. And he gets a DMG, and he swings right over the top of Kanan. Now we're going to get out the other Dying Keto, and then we're going to normal summon the Faith, and we're going to start boosting, and then we're going to start boosting the Faith. And then at this point, we do not mind if we force a crash here with Barrier, which we do. And then we just clear the rest of the board. They go for their draw phase, they get the Gazelle out, and the Silver Wolf, and they get the DMG. However, we got the Barrier here, so we're able to take out her DMG. And then we set the 2 Kanans, and we get the other Dying Keto out. We've got Fashion of Faith in the hand as well, so we're going to start buffing up the field. Oh no, we don't do that, we just get the Carno on the field. I think it's because we have Lethal at this point. Yeah, we do. And then that's it. Yeah, so we didn't even need Fashion of Faith. There was no back row to be worried about, so we didn't need to draw. And yeah. Either way, we'd have won anyway, I think, so... This character. Anyway, so yeah, so that was Aqua Aggro. Yeah, relatively easy 5 wins in a row, I would say. The Explosion Drive was very easy to dispatch. I think the hardest matchup I had in the 5 duels was probably the last one. But saying that, obviously, I didn't make it any easier with the misplay that I did versus Pitra. The guy that was playing Spellcasters, I believe. But yeah, no aggro, and obviously, like, we saw Spellcasters, but we didn't really see the mirror that much, which was very, very good for us as well. I think, like, going forward, I think this deck is really going to struggle in the maximum era because it just doesn't really have inherent ways to deal with maximum monsters. And say what you will about maximum monsters being bricky, by the way they are. I think if you're not prepared, if the deck isn't prepared to deal with the threat of maximum monsters, chances are they're probably going to get swept away in the meta, and they're just not really going to be that prevalent, even if they are good. So, you know, this might be an unfortunate goodbye for Aqua Aggro. We've only really got the cards that I showcased today a very short time, I think about a month or so. And yeah, they might, you know, the new meta might, you know, make all of those redundant because they just don't have a way to beat over the 3,500 attack threshold that most maximum sit at. So, you know, it will be interesting. You know, you will have to see, you know, what it is they do. I think in theory, of course, you could go you could go like, you could summon Dying Keto for turn, then Fashion of Faith, boost it up by 400, then, you know, summon another Fashion of Faith that gets boosted up again to 33, then you activate the skill, which then takes it to 4,000, and at that point, even a barrier can't save them. So, you know, there is a way that you can get over maximums with this deck, but I just don't think it's a plausible way to get over them. However, that's unfortunate. That's the best answer I can give you, other than obviously just hard drawing the one off that is triple T, triple threat thunder. So you know, basically, I wish this deck good luck, and because I had a lot of fun with it, and you know, hopefully, you know, we'll see this deck in the next meta come March. But anyway, with that being said, this is Lord Tenor signing off. Peace, stay safe. You know, have a lovely day, and thank you for enjoying my Rush Duel content. I will be either seeing you on my streams or I'll be seeing you on my next video. Peace, take care, and see you guys soon.